Fill out your tourney brackets now in the Fox Sports Radio Bracket Challenge. Visit foxsportsradio.com now to register. Fill out your bracket and get the rules. You get to compete against myself, Rob Parker, Martin Weiss, VJ Husky, and all of our Fox Sports Radio hosts and fellow listeners as well to see who has the best bracket. The winning bracket wins the ultimate college sports trip for you and a friend with a $2,000 graduate hotel gift card, a $1,500 travel credit, and a basketball swag bag. You can't beat that gift. The foxsportsradio.com bracket challenge is now live, and it is presented by Graduate Hotels, where college fans stay, and by Tractor Supply. All right, Martin, we were talking about LeBron's podcast with JJ Redick. I think it's a great idea. I'm looking forward to listening to it regularly. Two very smart basketball minds, one of them, of course, legendary in LeBron. And on their first one, they talked about a plethora of things. We already brought up the Jason Tatum stuff and discussed that. But LeBron also gave his views. And quickly, Martin, it'll be interesting when they do this podcast because already we're doing two topics on them. Both are based off what LeBron said. All right. Right. When we talked about it on First Things First, it was what LeBron said. It'll be interesting if, as this podcast goes on, are people, because everybody's going to be reacting. Other players and ex-players going to do podcasts on it. We're going to talk about it on radio and television. Is it going to always be something LeBron said? Like, is Redick, is he going to get any, attention from this? You know what I'm saying? Well, it'll be interesting.
I think he'll get the attention that he was looking for the other day when he was talking about how if he does a video about how Zion Williamson is running the point, he only gets 5,000 views, but he criticizes Doc Rivers and he goes viral. So maybe he can sneak all his basketball analysis in with this one and start getting some attention to that.
Right. I feel you. All right, so anyway, LeBron talked about the players he thinks are the most influential in the modern era. Here he is.
Steph and Allen Iverson are the two biggest influential guys in our game since I've been watching and covering it. One, they're 6'3", 6'4", if you want to.
Steph's not 6'4".
If you want to look on the back of a basketball card, you're always a lot taller on the back of the basketball card. Allen Iverson and Steph, they were just so relatable, and kids felt like they could be them. They were guys that was not always counted on. They were small in stature, and they just defined the odds.
All right. Well, first of all, LeBron hurt himself by talking about they were 6'4". Because Steph is a legit 6'2". He's listed as 6'2", and I've obviously talked to him before. He's about that. Mm-hmm. Iverson's listed as 6 feet, and he's 6 feet probably at best. He probably is a legit 6 feet.
I'm taller than Allen Iverson.
I don't know if he's 5'11".
I'm taller than Allen Iverson. I've stood in the same room with him, and
How
I'm taller
tall are you?
About 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah, don't you think he's probably 6 feet?
Yeah.
At worst 5'11", but probably a legit 6 feet or right under it. But so that hurts when you overstate it that much. It's like, okay, where are you going with this?
Well, I also think it's funny that he said he's been covering the game for so long. No, you haven't. You've been playing the game for so long. But in terms of coverage.
We're going to say LeBron was born in 1984. So when he started watching it probably closely, if you want to say 91, when he was 7 years old, that's obviously the Jordan era.
Yeah, I'd say 7 years old, you start remembering stuff.
Yeah. I'll say this. I don't think those are the two most influential. I think the two most influential in that time period, so let's say from 1990 on, is clearly Michael Jordan and Steph Curry. Jordan, because, everybody wanted to emulate him. He's a cultural icon. He's darn near mythical at this point. The sneakers. You guys had, we used to call the Converse Docs. Dr. J's, a lot of players wore him, but we all called him Docs because he was the most exciting and best player that wore him. Magic and Bird wore the Converse weapons. But the people didn't really associate him totally with those two players. You had Jordan was the first to just blow up the signature shoe, and obviously nobody's done it since him like him. But he's the reason the LeBrons and the Iversons and the Derrick Roses and all of these guys have their signature shoe. So that's clearly influential. I also would say this. He was obviously the biggest player, even with Magic and Bird there, of the Dream Team. And that team, Martin, sparked the international revolution, if you will, in terms of basketball. They saw Mike. Everybody loved Mike. He went worldwide. And his greatness, along with the other players, but mostly him, it really, sparked an interest and a desire and even a focus on getting better in all these other countries around the world. Jordan, like I said, he's just mythical. You can't take him away. I think even for the worst, it wasn't his fault. But because he was so athletic and game was so exciting, Martin, a kind of a generation of players and even scouts started putting too much emphasis on athleticism. It was unbalanced. And even though he had skills and was very fundamentally sound, people just looked at the awe-inspiring plays. And for a good chunk of time, remember, there were a lot of guys getting drafted solely on athleticism. Miles Swift and Chris Wilcox, guys that weren't that skilled, but they were getting drafted. Oh, they're long. They can jump out the gym. We can give them the skills. And it didn't pan out for guys like that. And if you look before Jordan and even since, Martin, Magic, Bird, Oscar, now you got Steph, Harden, Luka. It's about skills, right? These are great players that aren't what we call athletic, in basketball terms, running, jumping out the gym, but they're skilled. And was before Jordan and has brought it back after him. But Steph obviously changed the game. That's it. Now, what I will give Iverson, if LeBron's talking about culturally, Martin, Iverson was the first player to wear cornrows. And being African-American, you grew up, and you're younger than me, but growing up in the 70s, a lot of kids had cornrows.
Sure.
It was just, my daughters obviously weren't in the 70s, but they had cornrows as girls, cornrowed their hair. That's a popular hairstyle in the black community. But no one had ever done it like in a mainstream setting. Obviously, people weren't going to work like that. Cops weren't having their hair like that. No athletes wore their hair like that. It was kind of viewed as too black. And Iverson first time I saw him do it was at the All-Star game, if I remember correctly. Maybe it was a little before, but I think it was the All-Star game 1997 in Cleveland, Ohio. And I think he might have been in the rookie game. But he wore the cornrows, and obviously the rest is history. He made it mainstream. With the tattoos. Martin, black people wasn't getting tattoos like that before.
Sure.
Now all these brothers in the league got tattoos all over their bodies. He kind of was the embodiment of the fusion of hip hop and basketball.
I tell you.
So all of that is definitely true with Iverson.
I tell you, Chris, my favorite basketball player growing up was Allen Iverson, hands down, without a doubt, number one with the bullet. Do not doubt it. And it's part of the reason why I was anti-Kobe, because Kobe beat him in the finals. I was mad about it. That was seriously.
I got his, though.
He did.
Game one, at least.
How about this? I stayed home from a friend's birthday party in, I don't know, probably second or third grade to watch that game. I'll never forget watching that on standard definition back in New Orleans, Louisiana. But in terms of, I kind of consider me and LeBron contemporaries. He's got about 4 or 5 years on me, but I was in middle school. We would have been in high school at the same time, right? If we had gone to the same school. I 100% agree with him, which is probably rare that I probably 100% agree with LeBron because he does a lot of out there type of stuff. But I 100% agree with him in terms of Iverson and Steph, because when I was
over Jordan?
Well, I don't know how much Jordan he was remembering at the time. But like,
So you're taking Jordan out. Okay.
yeah, I'm taking Jordan now. Obviously, Jordan was the major influence, but to me, we saw that in what Kobe Bryant was trying to do. You know what I'm saying? As opposed but Iverson, man, shoot. He's a player kind of similar, and I've heard this, I believe, on your show before on TV with Kyrie, where his impact on the game far outweighs anything that he did in his NBA legacy, right? In terms of championships, MVPs, whatever. His impact in the game, the way he changed.
He's an icon.
The clothes that he wore, his hairstyle, the tattoos, the interviews. You talk about practice, man? Like, all of that. I remember sitting there, like, I tell you this. I had an opportunity. My neighbor was friends with Tim Floyd when he was the head coach of the New Orleans then Hornets, right? They asked, my mom got me for Christmas an opportunity to be a ball boy for one game. She said, you could pick whatever game you want to. It was without question the Philadelphia 76ers because I had to see Allen Iverson in person. It was without a doubt. Like, he clearly, I mean, the impact that he had on my generation is incredible. The one person I would say that he should have added in here is Kobe Bryant. Because very much like Randy Moss, when somebody makes a catch, they said, oh, he got mossed. I mean, to this day, you shoot a piece of paper into the trash can, they say, Kobe, to this day. So that's the one guy I would add in. And honestly, Steph Curry is the reason why I can't play pickup basketball anymore, because if one more snot-nosed 17-year-old kid takes a pull-up three on a fast break, I'm ready to scream and cry because that's a bad shot from the era that I came from playing. So now he gave everybody hope that they could shoot threes.
As you know, we had my group, the King Movement, had a basketball tournament in conjunction with the Word Church in Cleveland. It was called the Midnight Rumble. And $5,000 to the winner. So it was some great players, guys that were recently high school stars in Cleveland, played college ball. And watching it, Martin, it was just the difference in the game and the way kids grow up playing now, because guys either went all the way to the cup or shot a three or drove and kicked it out for a three. I mean, just like you kind of see in the NBA, there were a couple guys that had crazy mid-range games, but for the most part, most guys weren't dribbling and then stopping on a dime and pulling up for a mid-range. There were a lot of times they could have, but they went all the way to the basket. And Steph changed the game. I remember, we'll close on this, before the 2015 finals, and I picked the Cavs in 6. And then maybe that would have been true had Kyrie and Kevin Love not gotten hurt. But I remember talking to LeBron before the series, and I said to him, do they remind you of the Spurs that, 2014, who had beaten the Heat because they moved the ball, they shoot the three? And he was like, nah. He was like, they are totally jump shooting team. Jump shooting teams don't win championships. And at that time, it was pretty much true. That Spurs team had Tim Duncan as an anchor for if they needed to go inside because the threes weren't falling. But now it has become, Steph's changed all that. He's totally defied conventional wisdom, and now jump shooting teams can win championships.